Commander Lee Dae-ho stood in the deep underground war room beneath what used to be Seoul. The massive holographic display in front of him showed the edge of their solar system where something terrible was gathering. 3,000 alien warships hung in space like angry metal stars, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. The largest ships were 50 kilometers long and packed with weapons that could crack planets open like eggs. The commander's cybernetic eye whirred softly as it focused on the display. He had lost his real eye during the border wars 20 years ago, when humans still fought each other instead of preparing for this day. The metal implants in his skull felt cold against his skin, a constant reminder of how far humanity had come, and how far they still had to go. Captain Kim Tae-won entered the war room with heavy steps. His deep space reconnaissance ship had just returned from the outer system, and the news was written all over his tired face. He saluted Commander Lee Dae-ho and placed a data tablet on the metal table between them. "Sir, the alien fleet is bigger than we thought," Captain Kim Tae-won said quietly. "Our scouts counted at least 3,000 ships, maybe more. They have planet crackers with them, big ones." Commander Lee Dae-ho picked up the tablet and scrolled through the reconnaissance data. Each image showed massive alien vessels bristling with weapons. The planet crackers were the worst part, ships designed for one purpose only, to destroy entire worlds. He had seen the footage from other planets that had refused to surrender to the hegemony of rock. Nothing remained but floating rocks and space dust. "How long do we have?" the commander asked. "Maybe 2 days, sir. They are moving slowly, probably to make us afraid." The commander nodded. Fear was exactly what the aliens wanted. For the past 5 years, the hegemony had sent 3 warnings to Earth. Each message was the same: surrender now and become slaves or be destroyed. The first warning had caused panic. The second had made world leaders consider giving up. The third warning had united humanity like nothing ever had before. The war room's main door slid open, and Dr. Park So-jin walked in. She was the chief scientist of something called the Quantum Defense Initiative, though most people had no idea what that meant. She carried a small device that looked like a simple tablet, but Commander Lee Dae-ho knew it held the most important data in human history. "The calculations are finished," Dr. Park So-jin said. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly as she handed the device to the commander. "Everything checks out. The network is ready." Commander Lee Dae-ho looked at the data on the screen, numbers and symbols that meant nothing to most people, but he understood enough to know this was their only chance. For 50 years, the brightest human minds had worked on this project. Everything depended on it working perfectly the first time, because there would be no second chance. "Are you sure about this?" he asked Dr. Park So-jin. She nodded. "The quantum field generators are all connected. The amplifiers are hidden and ready. When we activate the system, the effect will reach throughout our entire solar system. Nothing will escape it." Captain Kim Tae-won looked confused. Like most military officers, he knew Earth had some kind of secret weapon, but the details were kept from everyone except the highest levels of command. "Dr. Park So-jin, what exactly are we talking about here?" Dr. Park So-jin glanced at Commander Lee Dae-ho, who nodded his permission. "Captain, we are going to send the aliens a message they will never forget. But first, we need to send them one last warning." The commander walked to the communication console and activated the deep space transmitter. This message would reach the alien fleet in less than an hour. He had thought about what to say for months, but now the words seemed simple and clear. "This is Commander Lee Dae-ho of Earth Defense Command," he spoke into the transmitter. "You have ignored our requests for peace. You have threatened our world and our people. We are sending you one final warning. Turn your ships around and leave our system now. You have been warned. Approach at your own risk." The message was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring every ship in the alien fleet would receive it. Then they waited. The war room fell silent, except for the quiet hum of computers and life support systems. 300 meters above them, the surface of Earth continued its preparations. Cities that had taken centuries to build were now empty. Their populations moved to deep underground shelters. The planet looked abandoned from space, but Commander Lee Dae-ho knew that billions of people were watching and waiting. The alien response came faster than expected. The main display crackled to life, showing the bridge of an alien warship. The creature on screen was tall and made of what looked like living crystal. Its voice sounded like breaking glass when it spoke. "I am Admiral Keth of the Vrak Primary Fleet," the alien said. "Your pathetic message amuses us, primitive apes. You threaten us with your tiny ships and ancient weapons. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your extinction will be swift and complete." The transmission ended, but not before Admiral Keth did, something that made Commander Lee Daeho's blood run cold. The alien laughed. It was a sound like crystal bells breaking, and it was broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system. The message was clear. The aliens thought this was funny. "Captain," Kim Tae-wan slammed his fist on the table. "Arrogant monsters. They have no idea what they are walking into." Dr. Park So-jin checked her tablet again. "The quantum resonance field is stable. All 12 amplifiers are showing green status. We are ready whenever you give the order, Commander." "Commander." Lee Dae-ho walked to the large window that looked out over the underground city. Thousands of people moved through the corridors below, all preparing for what might be humanity's last day. Children played in the recreation areas while their parents worked at computer terminals, monitoring the alien fleet's approach. Everyone knew what was coming, but there was no panic. Instead, there was something else in their faces: determination. The commander activated his personal communicator and contacted the other defense stations around the planet. "All stations, this is command. Confirm readiness status." One by one, the responses came in. The orbital defense platforms reported ready. The hidden bases on the moon confirmed their status. The deep space monitoring stations that pretended to be simple research facilities all showed green lights. Everything humanity had built for this moment was working perfectly. "Sir," Captain Kim Tae-wan said, studying the tracking display, "the alien fleet has crossed the orbit of Mars. They will be here in 18 hours. Commander Lee Dae-ho nodded. 18 hours to wait. 18 hours for the aliens to realize they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. He looked at Dr. Park So-jin, who was making final checks on her equipment. "Doctor, in 18 hours, will we still be human?" She paused and looked at him with sad eyes. "Commander, in 18 hours, we will be the only humans left in the galaxy, but we will still be human. The question is whether the aliens will still exist to remember why they should have listened to our warning." The war room fell quiet again as the three of them watched the display showing the approaching fleet. Soon the galaxy would learn that humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Soon they would understand that the last warning had been exactly that, the last chance to turn around and live. Commander Lee Dae-ho touched the activation key that would begin the final phase. In 18 hours, silence would fall across the solar system, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Keth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought called Inevitable Conquest. The ship was 50 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. Around him, hundreds of officers from different alien species worked at their stations, all united under the banner of the hegemony of Vrak. They had conquered over 1,000 worlds together, and Earth would just be another easy victory. The Admiral's crystalline body reflected the light from the bridge displays as he studied the tactical information. Humans were such a primitive species, stuck on one small planet with crude chemical rockets and simple energy weapons. Their largest warships were barely 2 kilometers long, like toys compared to the massive hegemony fleet. Sub-Commander Irel, Admiral Keth called to a young officer at the communications station. "Show me the intelligence report on these humans again." Sub-Commander Irel was from the Zilani species, with 4 arms and large compound eyes that could process multiple data streams at once. She had served in the hegemony fleet for only 5 years, but she was already known for her attention to detail. She activated the holographic display and began reading from the report. "The humans call themselves Homo sapiens," she said in her musical voice. "They have been spacefaring for less than 400 years. Their technology is based on fusion, power, and conventional physics. They have no energy shields, no gravity weapons, and their fastest ships can barely reach 1/10 light speed. Admiral Keth nodded with satisfaction. And their military strength? Minimal, sir. They have perhaps 200 warships total, most of them small patrol craft. Their orbital defenses consist of missile platforms and kinetic weapons. Our intelligence suggests they can offer resistance for maybe 6 hours before complete defeat. The Admiral's laugh sounded like crystal chimes in the wind. 6 hours? I expect this to be over in 1 hour. These primitives actually sent us a warning message. Can you believe such arrogance? But Sub-Commander Irel was studying something else on her display, and her large eyes showed confusion. Admiral, there is something strange about the human communications we have intercepted. What do you mean? Well, sir, when we sent our response to their warning, I expected to detect panic in their transmissions, fear, desperate military orders, evacuation signals, but instead their communications are very calm, almost casual. Admiral Keth waved one of his crystal arms dismissively. They are probably too primitive to understand the situation. Show me their evacuation orders. Sub-Commander Irel pulled up another display. That's just it, sir. They are issuing evacuation orders, but not to escape the planet. They are moving their population to what they call optimal observation positions, underground shelters with viewing screens. Observation positions? Admiral Keth found this amusing. They want to watch their own destruction? How typically primitive. Meanwhile, in another part of the solar system, Captain Choi Min-soo was making final preparations aboard the orbital defense station called Aegis 7. The station looked like a standard military platform, covered with missile launchers and energy cannons, to any alien scout ship that had observed it. Aegis 7 appeared to be exactly what the intelligence reports claimed, a primitive defensive structure that would be destroyed in the first wave of attack. Captain Choi Min-soo walked through the station's corridors, checking on his crew of 300. Most of them had no idea what was really hidden in the station's core. They knew their jobs. Operate the conventional weapons, maintain the station's systems, and follow orders when the time came. Only Captain Choi Min-soo and 5 other senior officers knew about the quantum resonance amplifier buried deep in the station's heart. Captain, called Lieutenant Park Ji-woo from the communications station. We are receiving the final status check from Earth Command. Captain Choi Min-soo activated his personal communicator. This is Aegis 7, all systems nominal. The amplifier is online and synchronized with the planetary grid. We are ready for Protocol 7. The response came from Commander Lee Dae-ho himself. Acknowledged, Aegis 7. Maintain position and wait for the activation signal. Captain Choi Min-soo looked out through the station's main viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the alien fleet was approaching, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had no idea that Aegis 7 was one of 12 carefully positioned stations, each hiding technology that would change everything. Back on the Hegemony flagship, Sub-Commander Irel continued monitoring human communications, and her confusion was growing. She had intercepted messages between Earth's military commanders, and nothing made sense according to the intelligence reports. Admiral, she called out, I am detecting some very unusual patterns in the human communications. What now, Admiral? Keth was getting annoyed with his subordinates' constant questions. Sir, their military channels are discussing something called Protocol 7, and they keep mentioning quantum field generators. Our intelligence reports made no mention of any quantum technology. Admiral Keth's crystalline face showed irritation. Sub-Commander, you are being fooled by primitive human propaganda. They are probably making up impressive-sounding names for their simple weapons to boost morale. Quantum field generators. What nonsense. But Sub-Commander Irel had accessed the fleet's long-range sensors, and what she saw made her forearms tremble with worry. Admiral, there is something else. The human defensive positions are not arranged correctly. What do you mean? Sir, their orbital platforms and weapon stations. They are not facing outward toward our fleet. They are all facing inward, toward their own planet. This finally got Admiral Keith's attention. He moved to Sub-Commander Irel's station and studied the sensor data himself. She was right. The human defenses were positioned all wrong. Instead of creating a defensive barrier around Earth, they seemed to be pointing at the planet itself. Perhaps they are incompetent, Admiral Keth suggested. primitive military minds making tactical errors. But Sub-Commander Earl had spent years studying military tactics, and this made no sense. Sir, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. They may be primitive, but they understand basic defensive positioning. This arrangement serves no defensive purpose I can identify. Admiral Keth was quiet for a moment. In his 300 years of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts, and something about this situation felt wrong. But the intelligence reports were clear. Humans were a primitive, single-planet species with no advanced technology. The fleet's scientists had analyzed every human broadcast for years and found no evidence of any weapons beyond conventional physics. Sub-Commander, you worry too much, Admiral Keth finally said. In 12 hours, we will be in Earth's orbital space. In 13 hours, the planet will be nothing but floating debris. Their strange defensive positions will not matter when our planet crackers begin their work. The Admiral returned to his command chair and studied the tactical display. 3,000 ships under his command, representing the combined military might of 12 alien species. The humans had maybe 200 small vessels. It would be like crushing an insect with a battleship. But as the hours passed, Sub-Commander Earl continued to monitor the human communications, and her worry deepened. She detected conversations between scientists using terms that should not exist in a primitive culture, references to quantum mechanics at levels that even advanced hegemony species barely understood, mentions of something called resonance cascade theory that was completely unknown to galactic science. Admiral, she tried one more time. I really think we should consider the possibility that our intelligence reports are incomplete. Admiral Keth's patience finally ran out. Sub-Commander Earl, you are relieved of monitoring duties. Report to your quarters and prepare for the victory celebration. We will not be delayed by the nervous fears of an inexperienced officer. Sub-Commander Earl reluctantly left her station, but she could not shake the feeling that they were flying into a trap. As she walked to her quarters, she passed viewports showing the approaching Earth. The small blue planet looked so peaceful, so defenseless. But if the humans were really as primitive as the reports claimed, why were they so calm? Why were their defenses pointing the wrong way? And why did their scientific communications sound like they understood physics better than most hegemony species? The fleet continued its approach, and Admiral Keth smiled his crystalline smile. Soon the galaxy would have one less stubborn species to deal with. Soon the humans would learn what happened to primitives who dared to threaten the hegemony of Vrak. But deep in her quarters, Sub-Commander Earl stared out at the stars and whispered a prayer to her ancestors. Something was very wrong about this mission, and she had the terrible feeling that they were all about to find out what happens when you underestimate an enemy you do not really understand. 50 years ago, Dr. Yoon Hai-rim made a discovery that changed everything. She was working in a deep space laboratory, studying samples of neutron star matter that had been collected by robotic probes. The material was incredibly dense, with atoms packed so tightly that they barely existed as separate particles. As she ran quantum resonance tests on the samples, something unexpected happened. The neutron star matter began to fall apart. Not from heat or radiation, but because the fundamental forces holding it together simply stopped working. Dr. Yoon Hai-rim watched in amazement as the densest material in the universe dissolved into its basic components, like salt dissolving in water. Her instruments detected a specific quantum frequency that seemed to convince atomic nuclei that they no longer needed to stay together. At first, she thought it was an equipment malfunction. She ran the test again and got the same result. Then again. After 6 months of careful experiments, Dr. Yoon Hai-rim realized she had discovered something that should have been impossible. She had found a way to turn off the strong nuclear force, the fundamental power that holds all matter together. When she published her initial findings, most scientists dismissed them as experimental error. The strong nuclear force was supposed to be constant throughout the universe. The idea that it could be manipulated with quantum frequencies sounded like science fiction. But Dr. Yoon Hai-rim kept working, and her results were always the same. Then came first contact with the aliens. The message from the hegemony of Rock was simple and brutal: surrender or die. Suddenly, Dr. Yoon-Hae Rim's impossible discovery became humanity's only hope for survival. General Nam Ho-seok was put in charge of turning her research into a weapon. He was a brilliant military strategist who understood that humans could never win a conventional war against the alien fleets. Earth's ships were too small, their weapons too weak, and their numbers too few. But Dr. Yoon-Hae Rim's quantum resonance effect offered a different kind of solution. "We cannot build bigger guns than the aliens," General Nam Ho-seok explained to the Secret Defense Committee. "But we can build something they have never seen before. We can build a weapon that makes their guns irrelevant." The project took decades to complete. Engineer Bae Dongwoo designed the Quantum Amplification Network, a system of 12 hidden resonance generators positioned throughout Earth's solar system. Each generator was disguised as a conventional defensive structure, hidden inside orbital platforms, moon bases, and asteroid mining stations. To alien scouts, they looked like primitive human technology. In reality, they were the most advanced quantum manipulation devices ever built. Engineer Bae Dongwoo spent 20 years perfecting the synchronization system. All 12 amplifiers had to work together, creating a resonance field that covered the entire solar system. The margin for error was zero. If even one generator failed, the whole system would collapse. The quantum frequencies had to be exactly right, or the effect would either fail completely or spread beyond the solar system, potentially destroying everything in nearby star systems. Dr. Park So-jin joined the project as a young scientist and eventually became its director. She understood the terrible responsibility they carried. The quantum resonance field would not just destroy enemy ships, it would unmake them at the atomic level, reducing complex matter to its most basic components. It was the ultimate weapon, capable of destroying anything made of normal matter. "We are not building a gun," Dr. Park So-jin often told her team. "We are building something that makes the universe forget how to hold things together. We must be very careful that we do not make it forget how to hold us together as well." The system required enormous amounts of power. 3 fusion reactors were built specifically to feed the quantum generators, and the entire planet's electrical grid was modified to channel energy to the amplification network. When the system activated, every light on Earth would dim as power flowed to the hidden generators. As the project neared completion, the team ran thousands of small-scale tests. They tested the effect on asteroids, space debris, and captured alien technology from crashed scout ships. Every test produced the same result. Matter simply ceased to exist as matter, breaking down into individual particles that drifted away harmlessly. Commander Lee Dae-ho was briefed on the project when he became head of Planetary Defense Command. The weight of the secret nearly crushed him. Humanity possessed a weapon that could destroy entire fleets without firing a single conventional shot. But it was also a weapon that had never been tested at full scale and would only work once. If it failed, Earth would be defenseless against the alien retaliation. The quantum generators were powered by the planet's rotation and magnetic field, drawing energy from Earth itself. Dr. Park So-jin calculated that the system could maintain the resonance field for exactly 74 minutes before the generators burned out. That would be enough time to destroy any fleet in the solar system, but after that the weapon would be gone forever. Now, as the hegemony fleet approached, all of that preparation was about to be tested. In the deep command center beneath Seoul, Dr. Park So-jin made final checks on the quantum field status. All 12 generators showed green lights. The synchronization network was stable. The fusion reactors were running at optimal levels. "Commander Lee Dae-ho," she said quietly, "the system is ready. The quantum field generators are synchronized, and the resonance frequency is locked in. When you give the activation order, the effect will spread throughout our solar system in approximately 37 seconds. Commander Lee Dae-ho studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet's approach. 3,000 ships, each one carrying weapons that could destroy cities. In 6 hours, they would enter Earth's orbital space and begin their attack. In 6 hours, humanity would discover if 50 years of secret preparation had been enough. Dr. Park So-jin, what happens to us when the system activates? She checked her calculations one more time. The resonance field will be precisely controlled by our magnetic field generators. It will extend exactly to the edge of our magnetosphere and no further. Everyone and everything inside that boundary will be completely safe. Everything outside that boundary will be reduced to its component atoms. Captain Kim Tae-won entered the command center with the latest reconnaissance report. Sir, the alien fleet has reached the orbit of Mars. They are maintaining formation and approach speed. Our deep space monitors detect massive energy signatures from their largest ships. They are charging their planet cracker weapons. Commander Lee Dae-ho nodded grimly. The aliens were preparing to destroy Earth completely, not just defeat its defenses. There would be no chance for surrender, no opportunity for negotiation. This would end with either human survival or human extinction. Dr. Park So-jin activated the planetary communication system and sent the final status report to all defense stations. All quantum amplifiers report ready status. Fusion reactors at full power. Synchronization network stable. We are go for Protocol 7 on your command. The responses came back from across the solar system. Captain Choi Min-soo confirmed Aegis 7 was ready. The lunar bases reported green status. The hidden asteroid stations acknowledged their readiness. 12 amplifiers positioned with mathematical precision, all waiting for the signal that would change galactic history. Commander Lee Dae-ho placed his hand on the activation console. In a few hours, he would press this button, and humanity would discover if they were clever enough to survive. The quantum resonance field would either save them all or fail completely, leaving Earth defenseless against the approaching alien fleet. He looked around the command center at the men and women who had devoted their lives to this moment. Dr. Park So-jin, who understood quantum physics better than anyone alive. Captain Kim Tae-won, whose scouts had provided the intelligence needed to time everything perfectly. Engineer Bae Dong-woo, whose amplification network was humanity's hidden ace. In a few hours, the galaxy would learn that Earth's last warning had been exactly that, a final chance for the aliens to turn around and live. Soon they would discover that humans had spent 50 years preparing for this day, building a weapon that could rewrite the fundamental laws of physics. Soon, the silence would begin. The hegemony fleet entered Earth's orbital space like a storm of metal and death. Admiral Keth stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the main display. 3,000 warships spread out in perfect attack formation, their weapons charged and ready to begin the bombardment that would end human civilization forever. All ships report ready status, announced the fleet communications officer. Planet cracker beams are charged to full power. Defensive. Screens are active. We detect minimal resistance from the human orbital platforms. Admiral Keth's crystalline face reflected the light from his ship's weapons display. After months of travel, the moment of victory had finally arrived. The humans had been given every chance to surrender peacefully, but their arrogance had sealed their fate. Now they would serve as an example to any other primitive species that dared to defy the hegemony. Begin the bombardment, Admiral Keth commanded. I want this planet reduced to asteroid debris within the hour. The first wave of planet cracker beams lanced out from the massive hegemony dreadnoughts, streams of energy powerful enough to boil oceans and crack continental plates. The beams struck Earth's defensive shields and created brilliant flashes of light across the planet's atmosphere. But when the energy dispersed, the shields held firm. Increase power to maximum, Admiral Keth ordered. Destroy those primitive barriers and finish this. More ships joined the bombardment, adding their firepower to the assault on Earth's defenses. The space around the planet lit up like a second sun as hundreds of energy weapons poured destruction toward the human homeworld. Still, the shields held. Deep beneath Seoul, Commander Lee Dae-ho watched the tactical display as enemy fire pounded their defensive barriers. The shields were holding, but they would not last forever. Energy readings showed the alien weapons were more powerful than their worst estimates. They had maybe 10 minutes before the barriers failed and the real bombardment began. Dr. Park So-jin, he called across the command center. Are we ready? She looked up from her quantum field monitoring station, her face pale but determined. All systems show green. The amplifiers are synchronized and the resonance frequency is locked. We are ready to execute Protocol 7. Commander Lee Dae-ho took a deep breath and placed his hand on the activation key. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. Humanity's survival depended on technology that had never been tested. At full scale, quantum physics that pushed the boundaries of known science. Execute Quantum Protocol 7, he commanded. Dr. Park So-jin pressed the activation sequence, and across the solar system, 12 hidden quantum amplifiers came online. The effect was not immediate. The resonance field needed time to build, to full strength and synchronize across the vast distances between generators. For 37 seconds, the hegemony fleet continued its bombardment, confident that Earth's shields would soon collapse. Lieutenant Park Ji-woo monitored the fleet. Communications from her station. Sir, I am detecting increased chatter from the alien ships. They seem frustrated that our shields are holding longer than expected. Captain Kim Tae-won watched the tactical display showing the enemy fleet positions. They have no idea what is about to happen to them. Then, at exactly 37 seconds after activation, something impossible occurred. The massive hegemony dreadnought Inevitable Conquest, Admiral Keth's flagship, simply stopped firing. The 50-kilometer vessel hung motionless in space for a moment as if time itself had paused. Sir, Lieutenant Park Ji-woo reported, her voice filled with amazement. The enemy flagship has ceased bombardment. I am not detecting any weapons. Fire from their position. Through the command center's main view screen, they watched as the impossible became reality. The Inevitable Conquest, the most powerful warship in galactic history, began to come apart, not from explosion or battle damage, but as if the universe had suddenly forgotten how to hold its atoms together. The massive vessel dissolved like sugar in rain, its hull plates and internal structures separating into individual particles that drifted away in all directions. Dr. Shin Bo-ram, monitoring the quantum effects from her physics station, called out readings that should have been impossible. The resonance field is working perfectly. I am detecting complete molecular breakdown across the target area. The strong nuclear force has been neutralized within the field boundaries. One by one, every ship in the hegemony fleet began to suffer the same fate. The quantum resonance field spread through space at the speed of light, reaching each vessel in turn and convincing its matter to stop being matter. 100-kilometer battlecruisers dissolved into cosmic dust. 1,000-meter destroyers came apart like smoke and wind. Fighter craft disappeared so quickly that their pilots had no time to understand what was happening to them. Admiral Keth had perhaps 10 seconds to comprehend his fate. His crystalline body began to vibrate as the quantum field reached his ship, and he felt the fundamental forces that held his atoms together starting to weaken. With his last moment of consciousness, he finally understood that the humans had never been primitive. They had been preparing. Sub-Commander Errol was aboard a scout ship at the rear of the formation when the resonance field reached her position. She had just enough time to send one final transmission before her vessel joined the silent dissolution. Fleet Command, this is Scout 7. The humans are not primitive. We never understood what they really were. Tell the galaxy to remember this day. Then she too became part of the expanding cloud of particles that had once been the mightiest fleet in galactic history. Dr. Shin Bo-ram watched her instruments with scientific fascination and horror. The quantum field is behaving exactly as predicted. Complete atomic dissociation across 3,000 vessels. No explosions. No debris larger than individual atoms. They are simply ceasing to exist as organized matter. The effect was precisely controlled, extending exactly to the boundary of Earth's magnetosphere and no further. Not a single human ship, station, or satellite was affected by the resonance field. The quantum generators had been calibrated with perfect accuracy, creating a weapon that could distinguish between friend and foe at the subatomic level. Observer Thek, the neutral scientist monitoring the battle from beyond Pluto, recorded everything through his ship's long-range sensors. His instruments detected the quantum resonance signatures, the precise moment when matter forgot how to exist, and the complete silence that followed. For the first time in his long career studying galactic conflicts, he witnessed the total destruction of a major fleet without a single conventional weapon being fired. Captain Choi Min-soo, watching from his orbital defense station, saw the enemy fleet simply fade away like mist before sunlight. Where moments before 3,000 alien warships had prepared to destroy his homeworld, now there was only empty space and drifting particles too small to see with the naked eye. In the command center beneath Sol, the tactical display showed a solar system suddenly empty of threats. The red symbols representing enemy ships blinked out one by one until the display showed only Earth and its peaceful orbital installations. The silence was complete. Lieutenant Park Ji-woo checked her communications equipment twice before reporting what her instruments told her. Sir, I am detecting no active transmissions from any hegemony vessel. No distress calls, no retreat signals, no communications of any kind. The entire fleet has gone silent. Commander Lee Dae-ho stared at the display, hardly believing what they had accomplished. 3,000 enemy ships, millions of alien crew members, the largest invasion fleet in galactic history, all reduced to individual atoms drifting harmlessly through space. The quantum resonance field had worked exactly as designed, and humanity had survived. Dr. Park So-jin shut down the quantum generators before they could overload and burn out. The resonance field collapsed back to normal space-time, leaving no trace of its existence except for the absence of what had been there moments before. Commander, she reported quietly, Protocol 7 has been successfully completed. The quantum field has dissipated and all amplifiers are shutting down safely. The threat has been eliminated. The war room fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what had just occurred. They had saved Earth, but they had also announced to the entire galaxy that humanity possessed technology beyond anything previously imagined. The universe would never look at them the same way again. 6 months after the silence fell across Earth's solar system, the galaxy had changed completely. News of the hegemony fleet's destruction spread through every civilized world like wildfire, carried by observer Thek's recordings and the few automated message probes that had witnessed the impossible event. The footage showed 3,000 warships simply dissolving into nothing, destroyed by forces that galactic science could not explain. Ambassador Lee Soo-jin walked through the corridors of the Galactic Assembly Station, preparing for humanity's first official address to the combined species of known space. She wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, but everyone she passed looked at her with expressions ranging from awe to terror. 6 months ago, humans had been dismissed as primitive barbarians clinging to a single backwater world. Now they were the beings who had mastered the fundamental forces of reality itself. The assembly chamber was packed with representatives from over 200 species. Crystalline Vrak dignitaries sat next to gaseous Nethri ambassadors while the insectoid krill delegation huddled nervously in their environmental suits. All of them had come to hear from the species that had achieved the impossible. The complete destruction of the mightiest fleet in galactic history without firing a single conventional weapon. Council Speaker Vorth, an ancient being whose species had guided galactic politics for millennia, rose to address the assembly. His voice carried the weight of tradition and the uncertainty of a universe suddenly turned upside down. Representatives of the galaxy, he began, his words translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. We gather today to formally welcome humanity into the galactic community and to address the events that occurred in the Sol system 6 months ago. The chamber fell silent as Ambassador Lee Soo-jin approached the speaking platform. She looked out at the sea of alien faces, some familiar from intelligence reports, others completely unknown. These beings represented civilizations that had existed for millions of years, technologies that spanned star systems, cultures that had forgotten more history than humanity had yet lived, and they were all afraid of her species. Honored representatives, Ambassador Lee Soo-jin began, her voice steady and clear. 6 months ago, the hegemony of Vrak sent a fleet to destroy my homeworld. They ignored our warnings and dismissed our request for peace. What happened next was not an act of aggression, but an act of survival. She activated a holographic display that showed the quantum resonance field in action, observer Thek's recordings playing for the entire assembly. The silence in the chamber was profound as they watched the inevitable conquest dissolve into atomic particles, followed by ship after ship, until the entire fleet had been reduced to cosmic dust. The technology you see here is called quantum. Resonance manipulation, Ambassador Lee Soo-jin explained. For 50 years, our greatest minds worked to understand and harness the fundamental forces that hold matter together. We did not develop this capability to conquer other worlds or expand our territory. We developed it because we knew that someday we might need to defend our home against forces too powerful to defeat through conventional warfare. Council Speaker Vorth leaned forward on his speaking platform. Ambassador Lee Soo-jin, the implications of your technology are staggering. You possess the ability to destroy any ship, any station, any world that enters your sphere of influence. What assurances can you offer that humanity will not use this power for conquest? Ambassador Lee Soo-jin had expected this question, and her answer had been approved by every human government on Earth. Honored Speaker, we offer you the greatest assurance possible, our actions. Despite possessing a weapon that could destroy entire fleets, we used it only when directly threatened. We sent warnings before activating it. We limited its effects to our own solar system. And now, 6 months later, we have not expanded beyond our original borders or threatened any other world. A ripple of discussion ran through the assembly as representatives conferred with their advisors. The Vrak delegation, what remained of their species after the fleet's destruction, sat in stunned silence. They had spent centuries believing themselves the dominant military force in the galaxy, only to learn that a supposedly primitive species could unmake their ships with technology they barely comprehended. Ambassador, called out Representative Keth of the Traders Union, what does humanity want from the galaxy? What are your intentions now that you have revealed such devastating capabilities? Ambassador Lee Soo-jin smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, her expression seemed genuinely warm. Representative Keth, humanity wants exactly what we have always wanted: to survive, to learn, and to grow. We seek knowledge, friendship, and peaceful cooperation with any species willing to extend the same to us. She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed images of Earth and its orbital stations. Our quantum resonance technology has applications far beyond warfare. We can use it to clean up space debris, to safely dispose of dangerous materials, to assist in construction projects that require precise molecular control. We would be honored to share these peaceful applications with any species interested in mutual cooperation. Council Speaker Vorth consulted with the other senior members of the Assembly before responding. Ambassador Lee Soo-jin, it is the decision of this Assembly to offer humanity full membership in the galactic community, with all the rights and responsibilities that such membership entails. We also extend an invitation for human scientists to establish research partnerships with our most advanced institutions. The formal ceremony continued for hours, with dozens of species offering trade agreements, research partnerships, and cultural exchanges. But Ambassador Lee Soo-jin noticed something important in their offers. None of them included military alliances or requests for human assistance in their conflicts. The galaxy's response to humanity's quantum mastery was not to seek them as conquerors, but to hope they would become protectors. Meanwhile, on Earth, the planet had transformed in ways both subtle and profound. Captain John In-ho commanded the bridge of New Horizon, humanity's first interstellar exploration vessel. Unlike the warships that had once threatened Earth, his ship was designed for research and peaceful contact. The quantum drives that powered it were a byproduct of the resonance research, allowing faster-than-light travel that made even advanced alien ships seem slow by comparison. Captain, reported his navigation officer, we are approaching the Kepler system. Long-range sensors detect 3 inhabited worlds and what appears to be a spacefaring civilization. Captain John In-ho nodded. Begin the standard first contact protocol. Broadcast our peaceful intentions on all frequencies and maintain safe distance until they respond. The mission of New Horizon was not conquest or colonization, but exploration and diplomacy. Humanity had proven it could destroy any threat to its survival, and now it wanted to prove it could be a force for peace and understanding in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Dr. Park So-jin stood before a classroom filled with students from a dozen different species. The Terran Institute for Quantum Studies had become the galaxy's premier center for advanced physics. attracting brilliant minds from civilizations that had previously looked down on human science. The key to quantum resonance manipulation, she explained to her mixed class of human and alien students, is understanding that the fundamental forces are not fixed constants, but dynamic relationships that can be influenced by precise frequency modulation. A young Krill student raised one of its forearms. Professor Park So-jin, why did humans discover this principle when older, more advanced species did not? Dr. Park So-jin considered the question carefully. I believe it is because we approach the problem differently. Most species focused on working within the existing laws of physics. Humans asked whether those laws could be changed. Sometimes the newest perspective can see possibilities that experience cannot. In the deep command center beneath Seoul, Commander Lee Dae-ho, now promoted to Admiral, monitored the quantum resonance network that still protected Earth's solar system. The 12 amplifiers remained operational, a silent guardian against any who might threaten humanity's home. But their existence was no longer secret, and their purpose had evolved beyond simple defense. Admiral, reported Captain Kim Tae-won, now his chief of staff, we are receiving another request for assistance with space debris cleanup. The Centauri colonies want our help clearing the shipping lanes of old satellite fragments. Admiral Lee Dae-ho approved the mission with a smile. The same technology that had once dissolved an entire invasion fleet was now being used to clean up garbage and make space safer for everyone. It was perhaps the most human thing imaginable, turning a weapon of ultimate destruction into a tool for helping others. As the months passed, humanity took its place not as the galaxy's newest conqueror, but as its most respected protector. The quantum resonance network remained active, serving as both a shield for Earth and a reminder to any who might threaten the peace. The galaxy had learned that humans had given them one warning about the consequences of aggression, and one warning had been enough. Children from dozens of alien species now played together in the orbital stations around Earth,